Hi there, I'm Frank Crenshaw. This is Coca-Cola Scale Modeling, and today I'm going to show you how I use a paintbrush and acrylic paints to paint tires on vehicles. Alright, so this is our basic setup to paint our tires. This is a color mixing tray, no big deal. Everybody knows what that is. We're just going to mix the paint and brush right out of this. Here's my assortment of paint brushes. In this I have some really nice Tamiya brushes for detail, and I have some cheaper and some ones that I use that are, you know, just to push paint around. I'm not as worried about their quality. I have the paint I'm going to use, Vallejo. Vallejo is a very high quality acrylic paint, and I find it works very well. And then of course we have our additives. Now the additives are really important because this is where you start getting the paint to work for you and not against you so much. I use, this is probably the most important additive right here, and it's called retarded water, and it's simply distilled water with 25% acrylic retarder added, so 75% distilled water solution. I use Future floor wax, and we'll be doing that in this demonstration. Future is important to me because one of the things Vallejo paint I find is very delicate. I find Vallejo to be very fragile. The floor wax actually makes the paint more durable, sticks better, and actually in a way makes it dry smoother. I have very little trouble when I use Future floor wax, so it works for me. And I have just some plain distilled water. Now we have our Jeep that we've been working on, and I've posted about, so everybody kind of knows I'm working on it. Now I just need to paint the wheels. The two wheels in the front are the trickiest, so those are the wheels I will actually paint last because I didn't paint them before I attached them to the model, which I probably should have done, but I think I can paint them without too much trouble. And I have 3 more wheels to paint, and those are the 2 rear wheels and the 1 spare. Before I actually get to paint those though, I'm actually going to take another project that I have. I have a Panzer IV from Tamiya that I've had languishing, and I need to paint the road wheels, and I'm going to use that for practice. Now road wheels are really easy to paint. They really are very simple. So this will be a lot of really good practice, and by the time I get to my actual Tamiya tires, my Jeep tires, they will be very, very easy to do, and I will be in the groove. So let's get some paint mixed up and get painting. I like to start with simply this gray-green color. It's not exactly black, it's a dark gray. This is Vallejo's equivalent to RLM 66. We'll just put a little of that here in this well. Now that's a very light gray, and that would represent a heavily faded paint. So I'm going to add to that some German camo black brown. It's a very, very dark color, a very dense color. And then we need to mix that up. So we take our stir stick and just mix that up, and that'll darken the paint, and it changes the color of the gray a little bit. It moves it more to a warmer gray, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Now as you weather, the paint will change color again. You know, when you do your washes, when you do various things. I'm gonna go ahead and just play around, and we're gonna try something different. I got this German uniform green. I'm gonna add a little bit of that too. Let's see what that does. I'm not gonna add much of it. The idea is to change the nature of the color to sort of match a base color that you want. I think I'll put a little more brown in it. Okay, so now we'll just consider this our base rubber color. It's a little bit light though. I do want to add a little bit of black. So I am going to add I'm actually going to add some pure black from Mission Models. It's acrylic paint, blends right in, and not much. We're going to do this a little at a time. The black is a very powerful color, so it will totally dominate everything else you put in it, so it doesn't take much. That's starting to look a little more like what I like. Okay, so we now have a base color. The first thing I'm going to add, I'm actually going to add a little bit of Future Floor Wax. Now you can go as high as 50% on this, but it will change the nature of the paint and it will become, I don't want to say glossy, but it definitely becomes shinier. But adding 20 to 30%, you don't really notice it, but it does seem to make the paint dry much smoother. Okay, now Future is largely water. That's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand. There's a lot of water in there. So you don't need to add a whole lot more water to it. But I am going to thin this even more because I need it. There's a certain consistency I'm looking for and we're not there yet. We're getting close. We're going to need a little sticky notepad. And let's see how the paint looks. So we'll just take one of our brushes, one of the, and we check the consistency. You don't want it too wet, you don't want it too dry, you want it to flow really nice. Nice long strokes. This is looking actually pretty good. So I guess we'll just test it. And the first thing I'm going to test it on is I'm just going to test these road wheels. Painting one of these things is pretty straightforward. You just get some paint, you want to unload your brush some, and then turn the wheel very slowly. While letting the paint bristles brush up against the raised detail. Now it may seem like that's not very precise. And that's why I'm actually starting with this detail, because it's not very precise right now. As I do this more, I will get more and more precise. That's the importance of practice. And the future definitely, I just have no trouble doing this when I use Future Floor Wax. I know people are going to hate me for saying that, but it really worked for me. Okay, so there's a road wheel done, or a guide bogey or whatever they call it. So let's do a road wheel. Same thing, always unload the paint. We don't have to be completely 100% precise here because there will be weathering put on top of this. But you do want to be as careful as you can. You definitely want... And one of the nice things about this paint, early on, if you get a little on something and you don't like where it is, you can remove it with a Q-tip. It's been moistened. Just put the Q-tip in water. And just rub the Q-tip on the detail that you wish to remove the paint from, and it will come right off. Now, one thing with acrylic paint is it goes on thin, so you're going to have to do this multiple times, usually. So the idea is to get a base coat down. And it doesn't need to be, you know, super precise. That's why I can do it by brush way easier than I can airbrush this. Masking this would be a nightmare. Excuse me. And there's a bogey wheel done. And we'll put that where we can tell it's done, and we'll pick another one and keep going. Now that we've got 18 bogey wheels done for our Panzer IV and some 8 guide wheels, it's time to actually go to work on our Jeep. To start, I'm going to start with this high quality Tamiya Modeling Brush Pro. This is a number 0. This is a really excellent brush. It has a fine tip, and again, we just make sure the consistency of our paint is right, and then we just dive right on in. But all the practice is about to come to fruition. Okay, so that's just one edge. Then we'll do the back edge as well. Back edge is a little harder to put on camera because of the way I have to hold it. Hopefully you can see this. Alright, so we've got that paint perfectly put on. Now I'm going to take one of my lower quality brushes. This is just a Filbert, a Princeton Velvet Touch. This isn't a great brush, but it's good enough. And I'm going to just use it to fill in the main pieces of the tire. That is pretty simple to do. Now remember, the paint is very watery, so if it builds up a little bit, you just unload the brush and clean it up. The paint is actually going on very thin, which is exactly what you want. You do not want thick paint. It has to be very thin. And figuring out how to get this consistency is probably 90% of what you'll need to learn how to do in brush painting. The actual act of brush painting is mechanically quite simple. It's not difficult to do. Once your paint's the right consistency, it's amazing how simple brush painting is. Since I use the fine brush to get near the rim, I don't have to worry too much about the quality of the end of my brush. I can just push the paint around, fill in all the light spots. Again, the future floor wax will make this paint stick to this plastic like the Dickens once it's dry. It does take longer to dry now though. You can't just quickly assume this is dry. In fact, if you pick it up here, it'll come right off. So it needs to dry longer than it would. Oh, my scalpel holder is not working very well. Okay, that looks pretty much done. I don't have a good camera setup. I'm going to work on trying to figure out how to get a better camera setup where I can actually do this without as much effort. But the act of actually painting, when you're not trying to keep everything in focus in a camera, is actually quite natural and incredibly simple to do. But as you can see, we basically have the tire painted. And it's kind of a off gray shade, dark, but not black. So that's actually looking really good. So that's how I paint tires. There are many ways to paint tires, but that's how I do it. Another little trick I want to teach you guys, or share, or for those of you who don't know, this is something I learned a while back, and it's probably one of the best tips I ever got. You have your brushes. How you get them clean? Well, the first thing you want to do is just rinse them in water. That's all this is a little bit of water. And this here is something called brush soap. And I picked this up at Hobby Lobby years ago. This is the Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. This is worth picking up. If you're going to spend 20 bucks for brushes, this is a must-have. But this is how you get your brushes to last a while. So you just give them a little rinse in the soap. Push the ends back together, and that brush is ready to go. You of course want to store it so that the bristles don't get pushed on. I have a brush store that I put them in. But that is how you keep your brushes in excellent condition, and they literally last for years if you do that. And with this acrylic paint, it's so easy to do. It's so non-toxic. It's just so perfect for brush painting. And there you go. I've had this brush here for a good 3 or 4 years, and this is not a high quality brush. This is just a Princeton Velvet Touch, a number 4, and it works. It continues to keep working. So this brush soap is well worth picking up. Anyway, that's how I paint wheels, and hopefully that's been some help to someone out there. Thanks for paying attention, and we'll see you around.